Have you ever felt tempted to start over creatively, like to rebrand, to reset, to reinvent everything? Then this video is for you, especially if you're a woman who uses creativity regularly in your work or in your business and you want to build momentum without constantly starting from scratch. Today, I'm going to walk you through why rebranding usually is not the shortcut that people think it is, and what actually helps creative businesses grow faster. And if this sounds like you, I've also created a simple free starter kit to help you create forward with what you already have. I want to start with something that I see constantly with talented, capable creators. When things start feeling slow, when the momentum dips, when the confidence starts feeling shaky, the assumption is almost always the same thing. Something must be wrong with my brand. So the solution feels obvious: a new look, a fresh direction, a clean slate, and honestly, that makes pretty good sense. Starting over feels productive. It feels decisive. It feels like you're finally doing something about the problem. But today, I want to walk you through why rebranding is usually not the shortcut that people think it is, and what actually helps creators grow faster and make more money and build confidence that lasts. If you care about building a creative business, not just creating for fun, but actually growing something sustainable, all of this matters. Because the issue is rarely your talent. The issue is rarely your skills, and almost never is it the creativity. It's how momentum works. That's the issue. So let's talk about this for just a minute. Here's the first thing for you to understand. Rebranding feels productive because it involves decisions. You're choosing colors, you're choosing fonts, and you're choosing the direction. You're rewriting your entire messaging. And decision making feels like movement. But here's the question that most people don't even stop to ask: is decision making the same thing as momentum? And most of the time, that answer would be no. Momentum comes from output, and it comes from creating and from finishing and from putting work in the world, seeing how it's received. Rebranding is going to keep you in preparing mode, where creating is going to put you into momentum mode. Now, these two modes, they feel similar, but they produce very different results. And a lot of creators stay stuck because they don't even realize which mode they're actually in. So let's slow this down for just a minute, because this is where things usually click. I see this pattern all the time. A creator feels stuck, so they decide to rebrand. They disappear for a few days or weeks or even a few months, and they redesign their logo, and they rethink their colors, and they rewrite all of their messaging. And when they come back, the audience hasn't grown, the engagement has not improved, and their sales have not increased. And now that pressure is even higher because they should feel more confident after all of that rebranding work, right? So they assume that the brand still isn't good enough. And the brand was never actually the problem in the beginning. The pause was the problem. Momentum only grows when you stay visible, and rebranding almost always pauses your visibility. But here's what happens when things are handled differently, because this is the part that most people miss. This is another creator who also feels stuck, but instead of starting over, they keep what they have. They keep the same look, they keep the same general direction, and they commit to creating anyway. And they post, and they test, and they adjust, and they refine while they're moving. And in 6 months, they have clarity, not because they rebranded, but because they stayed visible long enough to learn what actually worked. That's the difference. Clarity does not come from resetting, it comes from repetition. This is why I say rebranding isn't the shortcut that people think it is. Shortcuts feel fast, and growth comes from feedback. And feedback only comes when you're creating consistently. That's the part that most people, they just skip. They keep changing how things look instead of changing how often they show up. So let's be really clear about something, because this matters. I'm not saying rebranding is bad, and I am not saying that refinement doesn't matter. What I'm saying is your timing is everything. Rebranding works best after momentum, not before it. And when you already have traction, and when you already have data, and when you already know what resonates with your customers. And until then, starting over usually just delays the learning process. So if you've been feeling the urge to start fresh, here's the shift that I want you to make. Instead of asking what needs fixing, I want you to ask this instead. What can I create next with what I already have? That question is going to change everything, because it puts you back in motion immediately. And motion builds your confidence, and confidence builds your consistency, and consistency builds opportunities. That's the real shortcut. A quick pause. If this is helping you think differently about your creative business, then go ahead and click that like button. And if you want more long-form conversations about building a creative business that actually grows without chasing the trends or constantly starting over, then make sure that you subscribe and you ring that bell. This channel is about clear thinking, not about the quick hacks. And if creativity is something that you use regularly in your work or business, I want to help you build momentum without feeling like you need to reset everything first. That's why I created a free starter kit called Design Made Easy, Fun Guaranteed. It is designed to make consistent creation easier, starting right where you are with what you already have. If you want momentum without starting over, you're going to find the link to that just below this video. Let me leave you with this. You don't need a reset. You don't need a new identity. What you need is traction. And traction comes from continuing, not restarting. Build on what you have already, and the clarity will follow. If any of this was helpful, come join me in the next video.